All right, guys, this is our SRS segment of TNL. We got a special guest in the house today, David Allen. How we doing, David?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Well, first, thanks for joining us. We were kind of chatting a little bit before this, and I love the rebrand because I think at least our goal has been over the past few weeks to help simplify this, the whole retirement piece to our business. I think we kind of mislabeled it as advanced. Advanced market sales was, they've been great, but it's not advanced. It should just be something you do right along with your life insurance. And I think sometimes, the words we use are so powerful, right? When we put that label of advanced on something, it almost seems like, ooh, I gotta be at a certain point before I get there. And I don't believe that. I think this is something that an agent from day one should be asking the questions. And so that's been our goal over the past few weeks, and we will continue that week in and week out. So we had David Allen, who has sold a ton of annuities, working with us year in and year out. When did you start with us, David?
I started first quarter of 2019.
2019, okay. And you've been over the Hall of Fame level of annuity, I believe, every year since then, right? That's 2 million annuities moved, or annuity money protected. So what we're going to talk about today is the annuity piece. That's, like you said, is the bulk of your business. We were talking a little bit prior to this. But one of the things that we want to discuss, David, a lot of your annuities you find through referrals, right? I know you do your life business, but a lot of it's referral-based.
Yeah, most of what I do is referral-based, which is a little different, but I've been around finance for a long time. So I've tried to make an art form of being able to ask for that referral in a very non-invasive way.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, then we'll hop right into that because I think, that's a lot of the misconception or the questions new agents have, how do I find these annuities? And we've talked about the golden question, the silver question. I think we've hammered enough the how to find annuities in your life appointments. But what you're saying is you said yourself earlier, you don't do a ton of life. You write some life and you're working on increasing that. A lot of your business annuities, but you're not finding these off of leads a lot of times. They're referrals from other appointments or whatnot. So I'd love for you, David, to take a few minutes and just explain that process. Like, first of all, was that something that you were doing day one? When did you start, transitioning to the referral-based approach? And how are you finding these annuities through referrals?
Yeah, great question, Mike. And I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about it. The thing with referrals is agents need to understand that they need to not be afraid to ask. So when you're looking at a lead appointment, whether you've helped them or not, there's a word track that you can drop right in there and just simply ask for a referral and make people feel not afraid. So I want to talk about that first. So if I were helping you, Mike, for example, with a mortgage appointment, and we were able to actually get something done and get you approved, first thing I want to do is edify you on a great decision. So, Mike, we got you approved with Americo, and it doesn't feel good to know that if something happened to you, you didn't have to worry about your family having to sell the house and move out, right? That feels pretty good. Right. And I'll get a response from that. And then I'll just simply continue on. Mike, you understand the lifeline of my business is the ability to talk to people and see if I'm able to help. So I didn't know you until I called you after you filled out your request. We were able to give you some help, but I'm sure you might know one or two people that might benefit from just simply having a conversation with me. And if so, I'll help them. If not, I'll be honest about it. But do you know anybody that you think might benefit from just having a conversation to see what I can do to assist? And that front end is as simple as that. Now, if I wasn't able to help you, what happens next is, I'm really sorry we weren't able to find a good fit for you, but you understand why that happened. And I'm sure you might know a person or two that probably could benefit from a conversation to make sure they're covered in case they have an issue, because we do have lots of options. So who do you know that you think might benefit from having that conversation with me? And in both cases, I'm just simply asking for who do you know that you think might benefit from that conversation? And then I'm silent. I let them respond. If they give me a name and a number, this is where I become a little more proactive and assumptive. I'll simply ask you, hey, Mike, you got John. Do me a favor and send a 3-way text from you to him and to me, and just simply introduce me. Let him know that I helped you protect your house, and you thought it'd be great if the two of us had a conversation. And then what I'll do is I'll respond to that 3-way text and simply ask John, when's a good time to speak to him privately so I can respect his situation and not make him or cause him to feel uncomfortable about talking on that text with you in it, because you might not know exactly what his finances look like or how well he's saved or what his mortgage is, but you feel confident he could benefit from talking to me. So I go down that road on the lead side, but I'm also very proactive on the annual reviews. I call all my clients at least once a quarter and check in what's going on with life, how are things going, let's talk about what's going on in the world today, to keep them thinking about, am I doing all the right things as best as possible? The underlying there is they now get very used to trusting the value I'm bringing to the table every 90 days. So now when the annual review comes out, they're going to get a note from me saying, hey, you've got a review coming up in about 30 days. Your annual statement's going to come out. Let's get you on my calendar so we can make sure we're making all the right, best possible decisions for your situation. Talk about what's changed, make any adjustments to any strategies you have, whether it be an IUL or be that fixed index annuity. And then whether I meet with them in person or via Zoom, I maintain those annual reviews. And then what happens a lot is I use that same conversation right there. Hey, John, your account did really well this year. Do you know anybody that you think might need some assistance looking at some options, and having a conversation? And I just keep that conversation in the work tracks going. I talk to everybody, no matter where I'm at, about what's going on around. What do you do? How do you do it? How are you saving your money? Because everybody's a saver these days. Yeah. And the focus when you find somebody is you lost some money last year. You've lost a little bit this year. They're not talking about it. If you Google 2023 market forecasts, because I'm not licensed for securities, and I'm honest about that. But I tell people, I just go on the internet and I research, and nobody's talking about this being an up year. People are very well of what's going on in the banking world right now. It is what it is. Is it going to affect them or not? I don't know. We should sit down and kind of analyze that and see where you're at. And I try to convert everything into a, let's just have a conversation, because I want them to trust that I'm bringing something to the table. Once you've established that, now you go back to keeping it very simple. Here's how an FIA works. Here's the 5 basic key components that you need to understand. Here's how an IUL works. Here's how a mortgage protection works. Whatever it is, I just simply want to engage the conversation and let them know that I'm a human being that's very passionate about helping people. And let's just see where it goes. And I've had some really good success with that, and I'm humbled by it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and I love what you said about the annual reviews, because David, you wouldn't believe how many agents do not call their clients, or maybe you would. They just don't. It's a one-time sale. We helped out this family. They move on like it never happened. It's like there's people that after a year goes by, they probably need more coverage. Their situation may have changed. Maybe now they want to cover the spouse, kids, who knows, or an annuity that maybe you talked about a little bit in the first appointment, never followed up, and then's the right time. But it's just, it's business that's sitting there waiting, and it's clients that need some additional help. But what I want to dig a little bit more into that. You know, I love that referral base where you're asking them to text both of you guys, right? So when you ask that question, do you know anyone else who would benefit from this conversation? 9 times out of 10, I mean, I guess, how often do they say yes, that they do have someone?
You know what, Mike? I probably get a response about 2/3 of the time.
Okay.
You know, because, and remember, the important thing there is they know you're asking for referrals, but you're not saying, hey, I need referrals. You're saying, I want to help somebody you know just by simply talking to them.
Right.
So you're asking for it in a very simplified, non-forceful way. And if you've properly built your value, they want to give you those names and numbers because they see the impact you've had for them. And now you're being very respectful and asking how you can help the people they know.
Right.
And it's worked for me for years. It's been a really, really effective tool.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you, it's like, let's take a step back and understand what we're doing. We are helping families. So you help this family, you put them in a better situation financially, better situation for their future, whatnot. So to ask, would someone else benefit? It's not a it's a very normal question to ask someone, right? I helped you with this. You know, someone else that could use this help. Like sometimes let's take a step back, put it in perspective of what we're doing. We're putting these families in a better position. So why wouldn't we ask, right? So that happens. You said 2/3 of the time they mention someone, they text them, and then what happens there? So we got this three-way text. You now have their information. Are you calling them right away? Are you trying to set up a time to talk? I guess how often does it go from, hey, David, I know someone, to then you having a conversation with them?
Yeah, the way back when I started, some of the things that in my training from people here was if you're closing 50 or more % of the time on anything you're trying to engage in, you're at least being average and you're working on getting better.
Yeah.
2/3 of the time I've got that three-way text going out, and probably 50% of those text messages are turning into a conversation that they can now have that conversation with me and start to understand how I can build some value and possibly help them. So what happens is, let's say you put together that three-way text and the party that is there with you and I responds, hey, it's nice to meet you, and what's going on, or whatever they say. And I just simply ask them, when's a good time for me to connect and have a conversation, and schedule a time for us to meet or speak directly one-on-one. And 50% of that time, they'll say, well, I get off work at 5, or I'm off tomorrow, or this Saturday is a great time. Can you call me, between 9 and 10 or whatever? And I just affirm that, and I make sure it goes right onto my calendar. And I stay very, very focused on that, because that's built up a very nice business for me. And then you just work them into your normal cycle, and agents should be treating those referrals like another lead.
Yeah.
The difference is it's stronger than a lead, because these people have already engaged. They already know why you're showing up. They know why you're going to talk. It's because their friend Mike said, David helped me, and he might be able to help you. You should talk to him. Got
it. And then, so walk me through that conversation. So I say, yeah, man, I'm definitely interested. Let's talk Saturday at noon. And then you call me up. I mean, I'm assuming you're not just, pitching the annuity the minute I say hello. What does that look like? Because I hear you treat it like a lead, but it's not a lead, right? I didn't fill something out for mortgage protection, but you did check interest. I'm interested in something. So walk us through, how does that conversation go from, hey, how does it go from let's have a conversation to, hey, now I'm pitching an annuity to this individual or another product?
Right. Yeah. And when I'm making that phone call, and let's say you're the phone call, you were the guy that was referred, Mike.
Yep.
I'm having a conversation to find out where you're at in life. I'm not talking about carriers. I don't mention carrier names. I don't mention products. I'm not even talking concept at that point in time. You might ask, hey, how did you meet John? What did you do for John? Well, John was interested in protecting his family in case something happened to him. So we put together a plan to make sure his mortgage got paid off, so the kids didn't have to move out, or his wife didn't have to sell the house because she can't afford it. But we do all kinds of different things. I'm interested in what's going on in your life, so I can let you know where I might be able to help. And it's literally like a fact-finding mission, sort of like the financial inventory worksheet.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a verbal conversation. And if agents are learning how to talk, where they're building value and just talking about the possibilities, and learning how to ask all the questions to be able to gather the information, that 5-minute conversation with you, Mike, could reveal that, your parents lived into their 90s, for example, and you got some money that you've inherited that's sitting at the bank because you're concerned about it being in the market. Okay, there's an opportunity to talk about the concept very simply about an annuity. But you're also a young guy. Maybe you're interested in protecting your family and saving at the same time. Now we can talk about the concept of an IUL. So what I'm doing on that phone call is I am directing you down the path of the conversation so I can uncover something that I can talk about conceptually to further that next conversation, that next appointment, so we can get some illustrations, get some quotes together. But I want to lead you down a path where you're actually telling me where you have an area of need, and then I sell you on how I can fix that for you. And I want to be the Band-Aid right there. That's really what I'm looking to do. But I got to find out where you're hurting.
Got it. So we're talking annuities, right? So let's, you're having this conversation walk us all through, what are some questions you're asking? What are some things that the client's going to say or potential client will say for you to realize, oh, they do have annuity money. I should pitch them an annuity. So I guess let's walk us through some scenarios where that happens.
Yeah. So, Mike, we're talking about stuff and you're telling me you're working at ABC company right now. Have you worked there, for a long time, or did you have jobs prior to that? And I'm going to get an answer. Have you all, have they all had, like retirement plans, for example, like a 401k? Yep, I've had one at every single company. Do you still have those plans at the old company, or have you done something with that money? Right? Yeah. So I'm not talking about what the situation is as far as how I can help yet, but I'm trying to uncover the money. That part of the conversation is no different in my mind to somebody asking the gold and silver questions on a lead appointment when they're filling out the financial inventory worksheet.
Right.
So you might say, you know what? I had some money from my old 401k. How much did you save? Was it like 30,000 or 300,000? No, you know what? I got about $75,000. Did you leave it there? Or did you find somewhere to put it? You know what? I moved it over to XYZ brokerage firm. That's great. So you probably took a little bit of a beating last year, right? Because 2022 wasn't a lot of fun for a lot of people. Now I'm going to start finding your pain point because you probably did lose 15, 20, 25% last year, depending on the quality of the choices of investment. But Mike, you're not 25 or 30. You're a little bit older, and I don't actually know how old you are, Mike. I'm just using that for the example.
Yeah, I'm almost from 37, dude.
Okay, fair enough. So let's say you were a little bit older. Yeah. You're closer to that desired retirement age or target retirement date. I'm going to ask you, hey, in a perfect scenario, when do you want to stop working? Because, it's up to us. There's no more retirement that you get a guaranteed paycheck unless you structure it for yourself. So I've sort of opened the door right there by saying you can do something for yourself, but I need to know kind of how long you want to still work. Now I can start talking about that old 401k that you moved to XYZ company, and I can introduce the simple concepts of what an FIA can do. But I always take it back and say, I don't know if it's going to be a right fit. Sounds like it might work for you, but I'm legally required in the state of Connecticut, because that's where you live. Their department that regulates these things, they require I review your statement. And if I'm able to show you something better, I'll show it to you. But if not, I'll be honest and tell you to stay where you're at. And now I'm going to start working to show the value of, let me review what you've got, because I've already explained about the simple front end concepts of what an FIA does. It gives you that ability to continue to make money, protecting you against any further loss, which puts you in a good position to recover when the markets do. We can reduce your fees. We can turn on an income stream if you want or need it. And we can more appropriately estimate legacy for your family with that account. And then I want to see where he's going to go with that. Now, something that I do like is handling the objections of these things. A lot of people are like, I've got a guy, or I've been with that company, I've done okay. And I've got what I call my Vegas objection to that. So, the money you're saving, it's sort of similar to like you going to Vegas. If you decided you wanted to go to Vegas and gamble, or you're on the East Coast, you might want to go to New Jersey or Atlantic City. You're going to decide how much money to put in your pocket and take with you. And if you don't come home with that, you're okay, because you were planning on losing that. The market's kind of similar, only we can't make a plan for how much we're willing to lose unless we plan how we're willing to protect. And I'll ask if that makes sense. And then I'll give them an example. You might have told me you've got $100,000 saved. So I'll ask a very simple question. If the market's dropped % today, down to $80,000 and it never recovered, are you okay with that, or is that going to bother you when you get closer to no longer working? And I want to determine if 20,000 is the most you're willing to lose, or if it's too much. And then I'll back it down to whatever the number is. Now, let's say, Mike, that your number is, I'm okay losing $10,000, but I'm not okay losing any more. You're doing actually two things right there, and I'll point it out to you. Number one, you're willing to lose 10,000. That's kind of your Vegas number. But your non-Vegas number, the amount you're not willing to lose, is the 90,000. Right now, you're in the brokerage account that you could lose it. So why don't I review your statement and then come back and show you some ways that you can protect the 90,000. You want to leave your 10,000 there and you can hit a home run or two. That's fantastic. But this way, if you lose anything, you're only losing what you're willing to lose versus putting the rest of your money at risk. And I found that this analogy has got a very, very strong likelihood of getting me a statement and a follow-up appointment. So I'm using it more often than I have in the past because right now it's very relative because people understand what's going on out in the world. There's lots of things at play and they understand I'm going to go gamble, but how much am I willing to gamble? And when I convert that to their savings, they're more open into, okay, I'm not willing to gamble this part. What can I do to protect it? Now I've got an open door that you can literally just walk right through and start showing them some options how to protect that portion of the money.
That's awesome. So as to kind of sum it up, a lot of what you do is through referrals, and it's just asking questions. He's asking his client who he just helped, is anyone else you can think of would benefit from this conversation? He's not saying I'm going to try to sell him anything. They're making that connection. You're saying 2/3 of the time that happens. After that, about half of those you're going to end up meeting with, right? And then I guess of that percentage, David, of those half you meet with, how many of those would you say you're able to put something in place for them?
I'm putting in over 90%.
Yeah, over 90%. And I mean, it's just literally just asking questions. There's no magic to it. It's just, it's doing something different than what you're used to, right? Because it's not the, hey, I sold one policy on to the next lead. It's what else can we do to service this individual or anyone who else they know? And then I'm assuming you're probably also getting referrals from the referrals, right? So if you got this referral from one of your clients and then why not, you're going to ask that guy the same thing, right? Hey, is there someone else who would benefit? And who knows, down the road, I remember I had this client who up here in Hartford, I've probably written 30 something policies from her referrals, like referral. And it was all final expense type stuff, but went to one appointment. She had every policy you can think of. They all ended in like 5 years, all the garbage policies we see out there. But just through asking questions, next thing you know, there's 30-something people in this vicinity that I was able to protect just by asking the question, right? Now, I could have done a lot more if I asked some of these questions, but the key is you're just talking, and now you did mention objections. I guess before we wrap, David, what are the biggest objections you're going to get from, any annuity client, whether it's referral or not? And I mean, you hit on some of it. What are the few big ones that you get and how do you overcome those?
Yeah, the great question, Mike. And the biggest questions, the biggest objections I get are I'm happy where I'm at. I've got a guy, I'm okay where I'm at. This sounds too good to be true. When you start to talk about the concept and you show them how an FIA works, it's very, if you've overcomplicated even a little bit, almost immediately you're going to get it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And that should be your key to think, I need to get better at being very, very simple at this, because the simpler you make it, the easier it is to understand. You're able to walk through it in a way where they know this is exactly how it works. So one of the things that I do to try to get through that and not have those questions come up is when I talk about those 4 or 5 key points on the front end before I get a statement. When I've gone to the SRS team or I go myself and do a lot of my own illustrations and I go back and meet with the client, I will highlight in that illustration all of the points I talked about conceptually from the front end so that they can see on the carrier's paper that when I talked about no loss, here's where they're talking about it also. Mm. So it's giving me third-party validation, and then I become third-party validation for the carrier as well, because that client's going to see that everything we talked about, it's right there. One of the other things I do is clients get a little nervous about seeing a 19, 20, 21 page illustration. Like, oh my God, are we going to be here for an hour talking about that? So what I do is I actually cover all those key points, and then I'm honest with them. I say, look, the rest of this, the other 17 pages, it's all the legalese that we're required to have in here to make us compliant with state law. If you'd like to go through this, I'm happy to do so. But most of my clients really don't want to have to go through that. So here's what I'm going to tell you. If you really want to know, we'll talk. If you don't, keep it. And if you've got a night of insomnia, grab a glass of warm milk and your illustration. It'll probably help you go back to sleep, because this is stuff you don't really want to have to read unless you have to. And most of them just kind of laugh and they're acknowledging, I don't want to go over the legal stuff. They just want to know very simply, is this product going to work for me? So I cover the basic points, I validate it with the illustration, and I don't have to go through a lot of the legal. I just try to make light of the fact that it's there. Now it's edified to the fact that they know these companies are legit. They've got big legal teams that are making sure they're compliant. And I remind them this is all in conjunction with Connecticut state law or New Mexico state law, whatever client state I'm working in. And and the other thing you try to do is you try to be presumptive and handle the objections before they come up by explaining why things work the way they do. And now the client's not going to come back with that objection. And again, you just try to do it as very simply and calmly and casually as you can and just make it conversational. They build trust that way and it works a lot well.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, and you're right. It goes right back to the same principle with life sales, right? We don't teach all these rebuttals. If you structure your appointment right, you talk to the client the right way, you remove the objection before it happens. You know, if you make it sound like it's too good to be true, that's on you. And all these little points, like you talked about, if you bring them to the forefront, then when it comes time to make the decision, the objection's not going to be there because you already eliminated it with the information you provided on the front end. Same thing we do with the life sale, same concept here. I think that's what I love about doing this each week, David, is we really bring them together. We realize it's not much different from selling a life insurance policy. It's a different product, but the sales process, the concepts behind it, the way you talk to your client, and our goal is to help them on both sides. It's the same thing.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I want to remind every agent out there that's listening to is the following. You're going to see the same objections with every product you bring to the table, whether it's final expense, mortgage, an instant internet lead, an IUL, or an FIA. The objections are all the same. They're all handled slightly differently, but you can avoid them by explaining everything cleanly up front, which expedites your appointment a little bit because you've built your value faster, you've built that trust faster, you're able to move in for that very relaxed close. And if you do it right, your clients are going to close themselves and literally just ask you what's next. Perfect. We just need to fill out the paperwork, make sure that they can approve you, and we can get this all done and you can be on with the rest of your day. I get that a lot. Most of my clients, by the time I get done with the illustration, what do we do next?
Yeah.
That's why the closing ratio starts to go up for agents. Because when you build the value, it takes less time to get to where you need to go because they're already trusting you, especially on the referral. They know you're doing something good for their friend. They want to know, can you do good for me too? You just have to have the conversation to figure out what it is they need. And whatever the answer it is, whether it's annuities or something else, you just want to be the guy to help them or that girl to help them so that they get what they need. And then you start working that referral base. I've got some families that I'm 3 and 4 generations deep in writing policies for, and they all refer to their friends.
Yeah.
It's just a wonderful thing when you become solid and you're able to ask for that and then just be the person you need to be here.
Absolutely. You help more families, reduces your own lead costs because now you're supplementing your lead spend with referrals, and it's a no-brainer. I mean, just because a client didn't fill out a lead or just because someone didn't fill out a lead doesn't mean they're not a potential client and could use the same service. So, well, David, I appreciate you hopping on and doing this. And guys, every week we're going to be here trying to simplify this and get this information to you. So if there's stuff that you want clarity on, things that you want us to talk about, send us an email, drop a comment, something, let us know. Because the idea with this is to provide you what you need so you can go out and help as many families with these simple retirement solutions as David and Brad and Danielle and everyone else that's helping out with this SRS. And we have the SRS division to help where they'll help you run the illustrations. I mean, David can run his own, but you don't need to run your own yet. There was a time where David you learn, you get there, but we have these services in place to help you. So, David, thanks again. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you get something out of this and let us know what you want to see in the future.